Welcome to the Bold Analysis. And today, I want us to look at this word, procurement. This word is one word that means a process, legal process of acquiring goods and services on behalf of an organization or a company. I have simplified it as simple as I would make it. And this is the biggest problem to service delivery in this country. This is where men and women are killed. This is where huge bribes are paid. And this is where they are behind the scene games. I can tell you, nearly 90% of corruption scandals that has ever been reported in this country. I was in active journalism since 2015 when I started as an intern, and I was in media active journalism until 2020. So I was there for only 5 years. Within those 5 years, I was privileged to work in Standard, that was mainstream. Then I was also privileged to work in some NGO on communication, which was still between journalism. And because of that, I'm privy to what happens in the private sector and maybe on the other side on the NGOs. I can say, the President William Ruto, entrepreneurship is one of the most lucrative businesses in Kenya, and that is the space of procurement. It has no shame, it has no limits, and no one really cares about it. Tenders is a way of rewarding loyalists and friends. It is normally one of the areas that government fall. And I'm not shocked that even William Ruto's UDA administration, amidst the poetic talk, it is falling because of procurement. Let me date it back. In 2014, when Uhuru Ruto administration came in, you can be privy to contractors who got contracts by them. There was a story that was told, and there was a research that was being made, that those at procurement departments in nearly all government ministries were coming from one tribe. You can make your guess. Which tribe was that? And for those who are those who are following political projections will make a very good guess. Which tribe was that? And all the corruption scandals, the vector was pointing at a specific leader in the executive. You know, this was because it was planted. The procurement is the department where government is uprooted. You know, it's uprooted. It's uprooted from procurement. And I do believe that what happened in KEMSA and specifically what's happening in KEMSA is an eye-opener to President Ruto that if you are not careful, then all the good intentions that you might communicate in the confidence you're showing to the public might not be the reality on what's happening behind the scene. Let me take you to the next story. The whole scandal is about this. Global Fund wanted the nets, and they gave the procurement role, and not even they gave, it is constitutionally, it was the procurement role. The procurement role was left to KEMSA, And in the middle of this, someone called for specifications, or rather, the quality of the net, let me use that simple word, the quality of the net to be compromised, to be changed, because it was to benefit. And that is where Global Fund raised the red flag, saying, no, why are you changing the specifications? And if you follow it in the papers, the reason why those who were suspended because they succumbed to the pressure to change the specifications of the mosquito net so that it could suit some specific supplier. So I ask today, as we talk, KEMSA ran out of stock of drugs. There are stories that have been told and reported in the media about drugs that were procured, brought, and in the supply chain, they got their way in private hospitals and private pharmacies, while they were meant to help the people. It is treason. There are some sectors, just like we are treating Shakahola as a treason, we should treat those who play games with very integral sectors like health as people that have committed treason, a capital offense. On health, it should not be about corruption. It should be a capital offense that is even punishable by death. Because these are people that are killing others. I want to repeat. If we want to have a healthy nation, President, I don't have an idea of what you will do, but you must at least, as a matter of favor and a matter of priority, go to procurement and look at it once again. I know this country has Public Procurement Act. There is also the PPMF, Public Financial Public Financial Management Act. You know, there are a lot of acts, you can name them, can find out. County management, I don't know what, financial management what, international procurement management. There are all those. But critically, they have failed to cure the procurement. I don't know whether we have a solution to this or whether we will ever get a solution. And at this juncture, I want to ask our friends out who are working as in these departments out of the country, what's different in your country? How is it done, especially on matters drug? How is procurement done in your country? Is it done under a body like that of KEMSA, or how is it managed? There is a lot of donor funding there. In procurement, we are actually risking a lot by playing games, especially with the sectors like those of health. Government has always found a way of throwing Kenyans in the bush through some technicalities around it. And I have seen situations where it has been described. You know, there have been a lot of picky-ponky games. The regulation that says, I remember recently Gachagua saying, a tender that is more than 1 million, less than 1 million, must be given to a Kenyan. And even that which is less than 1 million must be given to a Kenyan. And that is which is more, even if it is given to international company, of course, because of capacity, a Kenyan, sometimes you cannot say that it must be given to a Kenyan because of limitations. They may not be in a position to supply what is the required service of the good, but there must be a stake of some local suppliers also benefiting in it. That has been one description of about how it is going to be done. Number two has been a specific, I don't know, 30% set aside for the youth. Hey, I'm telling you. And you know, our country, Kenya, we have a problem with describing who is a youth. Hey, hiyo ni shida. We've never known who is a youth. We just know it in the papers and in our mouths, but we've never known who is a youth. It has also been described as a problem of those who are in percentage given to women with disability. Can you look at these two examples? If you want to know this is a problem that we must midwife, even our electoral process, one of the parts, the level where games are played is at procurement. Look at the ballot printing tender. Towards the election, towards 2022 general election, Raila Odinga team were complaining that Wafula Chebukati was in connection with Wetangula around over deal on ballot printing tender. And that is a sensitive matter that touches on an election. And there was smokes of one party, which is a very critical contender in the election, a body that is supposed to conduct elections is a process is heavily linked to a politician. Then you look at it differently. Look at the recent Dubai oil deal. The Dubai oil deal was actually said as something that government went and bought G2G. G2G is government. That oil was bought. Some 2 companies, that closed tendering was done, and 2 companies were given the mandate to import the oil from Dubai. Then after it is brought here, the other 96 oil marketing companies were to buy that oil from the 2, not from the 3 national companies. I think I analyzed it here. Now that, and I remember the 96 oil marketing companies complaining that according to the Public Procurement Act, and actually they've gone to court to challenge why they were not allowed. Why only 3 governments were allowed, why only 3 companies were allowed to import the said oil from Dubai, even on that G2G deal. So that was also used, and some few people might have really been in it. Remember, procurement is the heartbeat of service delivery. And I want to just propose and look at it here this way. This is a warning shot. If we cannot relaunch deep our procurement process and the whole procurement department, then silently I can tell William Ruto it is what will collapse the state. It will. I'm sure this will. When you are struggling with all the activities for people to feel, people cannot feel the government if procurement cannot deliver. And there's some 4 things I think I'm trying to come up with. We must reduce the bureaucracy. We must reduce the bureaucracy. Look at the way the whole thing runs. We must make, the more you put a lot of approvals on it, after getting the evaluation report on the tendering, receiving the bids and the evaluation, and then awarding of the tender, if we make that process shorter, number 1, we'll be able to get goods faster. Remember, the Global Fund came in the country last year in November. Then for some reasons, the process was delayed. And it started this month in February. You know why? The reason why the advance was pushed in February, for that tender process to be fastened, technically delayed, so that when it starts in a rush. Remember, the mosquito nets are supposed to be received in the country in November. So it was delayed. If we start sometime, we would have the luxury of receiving all. The same thing with the ballot printing tenders. We've always pushed it to the last few days of general election so that we rush and create an artificial crisis of we're in a hurry and only company X and Y can do it now. But if we can just, what stops us from making the procurement process less of those bureaucracies and give it time so that even presidential candidates will have time and create resource to even oversee the process and be part of it. We've only created crisis in that procurement process. so that we push out. And that's why I was saying that government push out technicalities. Number two, there is a lie in the procurement. The biggest lie is that CEOs are not involved. Hapo, that's a lie. When you listen to all the procurement processes, the people at leaders will always say, I am not part of it. I listened to Isaac Hassan saying the chairman of the commission is not the CEO of the commission, rather the chairman. There is nowhere he's connected with the procurement. It's a lie. They're directly connected. So let's finish that lie and let's just put them in it. Because even 3.7 billion global fund money to come into this country, and you want to tell me that the CEO of the country is unaware? No, get out of this. You must go and tell it to some madman somewhere. It's not true. The CEOs are involved. And because we've created an artificial disassociation between procurement department and the CEO, the CEOs are now sitting strategic somewhere as an influential factor. Because while they're not, we are saying they're not in it, but they have a stake in the hiring powers. The HR, CEO, and so have some collusion on hiring power. So if you can't dance to their tune on the procurement, they will get you sacked. So indirectly, they're involved in it. So we just put it so that one of the ways to reduce the bureaucracy. Lastly, the donor fund programs. I am a student of fundraising. Yes, I did it under PS Kenya, and I did a training in Tanzania about it. Let us just allow the donors to give us what we need in kind. Like, for example, nets. Let them do the procurement at their website, their own way, so that as we get it. In fact, for the donor funding, even on medical, if there is a donation on medicine, give us the medicine. Don't give us the money to start meddling around here, because our greedy leaders are feasting on that money, and that money is not helping the intended purpose. 3, I think the hiring criteria must also be relooked. One of the reasons why you will see a lot of cronyism at procurement is because of corruption. All people, everyone in critical procurement departments will always be a sister, a brother, a mother-in-law, or a father-in-law, or someone connected to the big boss. So if there is a place we are supposed to do meticulous research and screening, we must do screening of procurement personnel. And that screening is based on even the relativeness, apart from the merit. Yeah. So that we really create a line, even though that cannot be used, that screen cannot be used to prescribe people's behavior, because again, corruption is a behavioral. It's something behavioral. Huh? Someone told me it's one way of making money. You know, Kenyans, we've also, and it has really thrived in our weak judicial system. So that's my take. Apart from legal, all this must be institutionalized through a legal framework. But all in all, my point is clear. If President Ruto do not get himself soaked and restructure and relook at our procurement, then KEMSA is just a smokescreen. There is a lot coming. That's my take.